Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Satipatthānañca vo bhikkave desissāmi satipatthāna bhavanañca satipatthāna bhavana gāmininca patipadang tāti. Dear Dhamma friends, yesterday we actually discussed about Satipatthana method or the establishment of mindfulness, and today we are going to discuss further about the same sutta. Now I am sharing it with you. So sometimes we confuse what is Satipatthana, what is Satipatthana Bhavana, why are all these differences, and therefore in this short sutta Buddha discusses very clearly what he meant by Satipatthana and what he meant by Satipatthana Bhavana and what he meant by Satipatthana Bhavana Gaminincha Patipada. So yesterday actually we covered only the first part, that is the establishment of mindfulness. Actually we all have some idea about mindfulness right now. Bhante Dhammajiva also very beautifully explained. And now we should know how to establish mindfulness. In order to develop mindfulness, first of all we need to establish mindfulness, and there we have to find out kind of a location, kind of a place to establish mindfulness. So the easiest method is to establish mindfulness using the body. That could be the beginning point. So there you can establish mindfulness on various postures: sitting posture, lying down posture, standing posture, walking posture. Or you can even establish mindfulness on breathing, in-breath, out-breath, the beginning of the in-breath, end of the in-breath, beginning of the out-breath, end of the out-breath. So likewise, now we are finding out a kind of a location, a place, as well as a kind of a process. Suppose you are keeping your attention at the abdomen. As you're breathing in, the abdomen comes forward, rising. And as you breathe out, it goes back, falling. Each and every rising and falling helps us to establish mindfulness. And maybe you can feel the body. You can feel at various activities. Say while walking, you can be mindful. Each step, when your left foot touching the ground, you can establish mindfulness there. When your right foot touching the ground, you can establish mindfulness there. When you are lifting the leg, you can be mindful about that. When you are moving the leg, you can be mindful about that. When you are touching the ground, you can be mindful about that. Suppose you are having your meal. Even that can be done mindfully. You can establish mindfulness while you eat. When you are collecting food, when you are mixing them up, and you take a lump of rice and then you are putting to your mouth. And there you can establish mindfulness. Suppose you are wearing clothes. While doing that, you can establish mindfulness. Suppose you are standing, just waiting for a bus. There also you can establish mindfulness. Suppose you do various other works. Say you are washing dishes, or you are, say, sweeping the garden. There also you can establish mindfulness. So various bodily activities are there. So you can gently establish mindfulness. It is not that we don't have time to establish mindfulness. Rather, we forget to establish mindfulness. So again and again, we therefore have to remind ourselves to establish mindfulness. So this actually happens at the beginning Because we are so forgetful and preoccupied with various thought processes, with various imaginations, with various stories. So we constantly forget to establish mindfulness. But if we are able to remind ourselves that I need to establish my mindfulness right now on this very posture, then you are awakened to that moment. Then you know, right now I am sitting. Right now this body is in a sitting posture. Right now this body is in a walking posture. Right now this body is in a reclining posture. Likewise, you can use this reminding again and again as a kind of a call, as a kind of a request to establish mindfulness. So this process actually helps to come out of our dream, to come out of our imagination, to come out of our fantasy, and to live in the present moment, to be in the real world, to be in the present activity. So likewise, we are now trying to awaken ourselves, to live, to be present, not to be carried away by various stories, various proliferations, ruminations, but be present, be aware of the present moment. So this can be expanded to various feelings as well. Say when you are feeling a happy feeling, a pleasurable feeling, you can establish mindfulness there. Suppose you feel kind of energetic. There you can establish mindfulness. Suppose there is a little pain at your knee. You can establish mindfulness there. Suppose kind of a neutral feeling is ongoing. Say your foot is touching the ground. Maybe your hands are touching each other. You can feel the warmth. Or you can feel the heartbeat. There also you can establish mindfulness. So various feelings also helps us to establish mindfulness. And if you are able to improve likewise, then probably you will understand. So recognizing this bodily process and the bodily process are two things. Bodily process is a kind of a physical phenomena, but the knowing part is a mental phenomena. So you are becoming like a knower. You can know it. You can be aware of that process. You can be aware of some physical phenomena. So there you make a kind of a distance. So there's a bodily process going on and you can step back and watch it, observe it, be mindful about it, be aware of that. So now you distinguish these two processes. Now you have the capacity to recognize kind of a bodily process, not being caught up with it. And you are not missing it either. You are not being caught up with it. At the same time, you are not lost with another process. But this is the kind of a process that you are in search of or you are interested of. And there you can be mindful about it without getting lost in that process. Sometimes there are certain activities which requires a lot of attention. Say you are typing a letter using a computer. There probably you can have a lot of attention and as a result you forget the time, you forget the place and you forget where you are, but you are completely involved in that activity. That is another extreme. There you lost the present moment and you are completely absorbed to that activity. But on the other hand, while you are doing that activity, if your mind is distracted towards the past, towards the future, then you are not really be mindful about that activity. So that is the other extreme. So how about the middle? You are mindful, and again you are not lost in that activity, and again you are not distracted from that activity. So if you are able to find out this beautiful balance, so this little island, so this kind of an awareness, so then the activity become kind of a natural unfolding. The activity is going on, you can step back, step out of the process and simply watch it. Like yesterday I have mentioned, you are now in the back seat, the taxi driver is taking you to the destination. You can simply observe the whole process. You can simply enjoy the environment. Now this is where we properly establish mindfulness, and if you are able to have that beautiful balance, then you can apply the same to your mind. Then there is a lustful thought arising, you can be aware. Oh, there is a lustful thought. When there is an angry thought arising, you can be aware there is anger right now. There is jealousy. There is kind of an aversion. There is kind of a resistance. Many different attitudes. There's a kind of a faith. There's a kind of an effort. Either positive or negative, wholesome or unwholesome. We simply can be aware of any of these wholesome states, any of these unwholesome states. So the awareness is one thing, and that defilement or the wholesome state is another thing. So it's very much like you are staying at an island and simply watching the passing by boat, passing by vehicle, passing by ship. You can be fully aware of that. Now, if you are able to establish mindfulness like this, then still it has a lot of benefits. You are not too much involved with it, you are not getting lost in it, and you are not making any stress out of it. Now you know how to observe some phenomena without getting stressed, without getting tensed. And you can observe that physical phenomena without adding to it, without making a story. And there you can apply it to a kind of a pain. So there's a bodily pain available. Rather than adding a story to it or blaming someone else, you can simply be aware, now there is a pain. So you can simply watch it, be aware of that. So even at this level, there are many benefits. But Buddha doesn't stop there. So he is bringing us to the Satipatthana Bhavana. So this is where we now going to discuss. So now Buddha is taking us to the Satipatthana Bhavana, the development of establishment of mindfulness. So we are not simply stopped at the establishment of mindfulness. Rather, once the mind is well established, then we should know the whole process. We should know how it is starting. Suppose you establish mindfulness on the breath. Now you know clearly, now this is the in-breath. Now you know clearly this is the out-breath. And once you are able to well establish mindfulness, then you can further inquire how this in-breath begins. Is it abruptly beginning, or is it a kind of a gradual beginning? How this breath disappear? Is it sudden disappearance, or is it a kind of a natural gradual fading away? So you are putting kind of a curiosity, kind of an inquiring mind to this whole process. So this actually helps us to develop other aspect of mindfulness. So that is sometimes we call as clear comprehension, sampajanya. Now we are inquiring, we are examining, investigating the phenomena under observation. Now we get more and more detail. So this in-breath is different from the out-breath. There are some subtle differences. And not only that, even the two consecutive in-breaths are not 100% similar. Two consecutive out-breaths are not 100% similar. So that level of clarity So that kind of a refinement is possible. So by using breath as an exercise, as a tool, now we are refining mindfulness and we are improving clear comprehension. And when the clear comprehension is further improved, it helps us to see the beginning of the breath. And probably at the beginning the breath may appear like a single breath. Probably you can even recognize, you can even understand it is not a single breath. It's a collection of breaths. It's a collection of little in-breaths. It's a kind of an accumulation. The manifestation appear like a single in-breath, but when we look closely, clearly, then we probably will be able to recognize it's a series of in-breaths. Now, how each minute in-breath begins. And at that time, you can't actually think about the past, think about the future, think about the economy, think about the housework. Rather, you are very carefully observing the in-breath. And even you can't recognize whether it is in-breath or out-breath. Even that information probably might lost. And there's a kind of a sensation, kind of an indication is available, and that is beginning and then it is disappearing. That is again beginning, arising and again disappearing. So likewise, if you are able to carefully observe this ongoing process, you may end up with some kind of a very simple, very direct experience, which is in a way very subtle, and it has a beginning and it has an end. It happens again and again. So you are very carefully watching it. You are very carefully observing it to recognize the beginning, to recognize the end. So Buddha encourages us to do this investigation. So he is asking, Samudaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Viharati. So now you are trying to observe the beginning, how it is arising, how the breath starts, how rising and falling start, how the beginning of the rising, and how it is manifesting, and how it fades away, how the beginning of falling, how it manifests, and how it fades away, how the beginning of the next rising. So likewise, now you are interested about the detail of this whole process. Now you can be aware of the whole process. So as a result of this, you are able to well establish mindfulness and to improve clear comprehension and to see the subtle details. The beauty is, more you observe very closely, there is a point that these details disappear. These details sort of lost their interest and they appear like blurred, and only you can recognize kind of a sensation is there. Now you can't distinguish whether it is in-breath or out-breath, rising or falling, happy or painful, but kind of a sensation is there, and again you lost where it is, the location, but something is there, some indication is there, some sensation is there, and you are carefully observing it, you are carefully recognizing it with a very equanimous mind. You are not bothered about that losing of details. You are not bothered about various doubts. You are trying to keep your mind fairly restrained and well concentrated, well attuned to the process, and you are carefully observing it. As a result, you would be able to recognize how the arising part And then Buddha says, Vayadhammanupassiva kayasmin viharati. How this passes away, how this disappears. And when you are able to recognize the disappearance, then you can combine both. How both are happening, how arising and passing away happens. Samudaya vaya dhammanupassiva kayasmin viharati. Now, if you are able to recognize whatever the bodily phenomena with this perspective, then you can understand it is so transient. It does not last for a long time. It is so transient, it is very quickly appearing and very quickly disappearing. It is so rapid. And now you have the capacity to recognize this rapid succession, to recognize this rapid process. Constant arising and passing away. Constant arising and passing away. And if you are able to recognize this maybe using anapanasati, using the breath, or using say rising and falling, or using various other activities while you are doing walking meditation, any place is possible. So all are different ways of establishment of mindfulness, and once the mindfulness is established, at any place you can refine your mindfulness and can recognize all these arises and passing away. Now everywhere appear like arising and passing away. Everywhere appear like very transient. Assume that now you feel something, kind of a pleasurable feeling arise. So you place your attention there and you observe it. You carefully observe it. You establish mindfulness there. And as a result, you can clearly investigate it. There also you can recognize it is not a single say feeling. It may be a accumulation of feelings, maybe 5 feelings, it may be 10 feelings. Altogether it appears like a single feeling, but it consists of several feelings. And how each one begins, how each one disappears, how each one begins, how each one disappears. So again and again you are carefully observing it while keeping a very quiet mind. You are not talking, you are not analyzing, you are not thinking, you are not trying to bring up any book knowledge. You are not making any inner commentary. Rather, you are very silently, carefully, equanimously observing, understanding, carefully investigating. As a result, even various feelings, it may be pleasurable feeling, it may be painful feeling, it may be equanimous feeling, everything appear like coming and going, arising and passing away. So how even a pleasurable feeling, when it appear and disappear, when it is arising and passing away, how can you expect kind of a constant happiness there, constant pleasure there? Because it is so vulnerable, so transient. So you can't expect a lasting happiness using a transient process, using a vulnerable process. So this is applicable to the pleasurable feelings, to the painful feelings, and to the equanimous feelings, everywhere. And similarly, you can apply to your own mind. So various thoughts coming up. So you know how they are arising. So your mindfulness is well refined. You are able to look at the beginning, and as a result, you can understand the beginning of a lustful thought, a beginning of an angry thought, a beginning of a resentment, beginning of a jealousy. So as a result, you can actually recognize it at their very inception. It may not grow to very high levels because you are already there. You are already able to recognize it at their very early stages. If you stop feeding them, then they lose their strength. Actually, we are the ones feeding them. We are the ones fertilizing them. But with developed mindfulness, if we are able to recognize their early stages and stop feeding them, not being a victim to them, then they can't last for a long time. They simply fade away. Then you can clearly recognize how a thought arises and how it passes away. How anger arises and how it passes away. Buddha very clearly mentioned this when he is talking about the hindrances in the Dhammanupassana. When there is no lust, you know there is no lust. When there is anger, when you know there is anger. When there is lust, you know there is lust. When there is no anger, you know there is no anger. Similarly, when anger arising, you know anger is arising. Previously there was no anger, now anger is arising. And as a result, if you are not feeding anger, then it starts to fade away. And now you know that arisen anger is fading away. It is disappearing. It is reducing. And after a while, you know, now it is no more there. It has gone. It has disappeared. And you can understand all these thoughts have the nature of appearing and disappearing, coming and going. So why you bother so much about this kind of a transient thought, about this kind of a visitor? Why are you going to offer tea to each and every visitor? They simply come by themselves and let them go by themselves. Why bother? Why trouble yourself? And if you are able to have this kind of a insight, then you don't worry about the arising of various thoughts. They may come and they may go. You are not bothered. You have your own solace, you have your own island to watch them. They appear and you are watching. They stay for a while, you are watching. And they go out of your mind and you are watching. You are aware. Now you are not bothered. Now you don't need to claim them as your thoughts. You don't need to claim them as your anger. You don't need to claim them as your lust. They are simply temporary visitors. They simply came to your house asking something. But if you are not paying them, if you are not offering them anything, they will go to the next house. Likewise, when various thoughts are coming, if you are having enough mindfulness, you are not promoting them, you are not getting victimized to them, and they simply go away. This is applicable not only to the unwholesome side, even to the wholesome side. Even when say loving kindness thought arises, at this level we are not feeding it. We are not now going to practice metta meditation. Rather, we recognize this is a loving kindness thought. This is the beginning of loving kindness thought. This is how it is appearing like. This is the quality of it. And we are not feeding it. As a result, the loving kindness thought disappears. And now you are aware of that. Now again the mind is back at rest. Now you recognize kind of a gap between two thoughts. They are not very rapidly coming one after the other, but there are little gaps. Probably you can now notice. There is lustful thought arising and passing away. There's another lustful thought arising and passing away. You are carefully watching. And there could be a little gap, a little interval, that there is no lustful thought. There is no any angry thought. There is no thought. Are you able to recognize this rest area? This simple absence of thoughts. And if you are able to recognize this, then you can clearly understand all these thoughts have the nature to arise and pass away. All these bodily phenomena have the nature to arise and pass away. All these various feelings have the nature to arise and pass away. So this arising and passing away becomes kind of an insight, kind of an understanding, kind of a deep knowledge in your life. So now you know the art, you have your mindfulness, and while being there, you can watch. You become a silent observer. And if you are able to develop this kind of a situation, so the vision of impermanence is with you. You know everything is so transient. Everything has the nature to arise and pass away. And on this whole process, you have no control. So they appear due to various causes, they happen due to various causes, and those causes are out of your control. Then how come the result is in your control? Therefore, the result is also out of your control. So you now take your hand away. You allow the process to happen. You allow the things to happen. And you simply take your hand away and let things be. And if you are able to do like this, then slowly all these various processes starts to cease. They start to disappear. They start to fade away. While you are watching the bodily processes, they now come and go, and ultimately they disappear. They calm down. If you are watching various feelings, they also arise and pass away, come and go, and after some time, it completely ceases, completely disappear. You are watching various thoughts, one after the other, come and go, and there are little gaps, and you pay more attention to these little gaps. And then there could be a kind of a resting period, kind of an interval, kind of a absence of thoughts. And you are very alert in that place. You are well aware of that absence. And this helps us to clear our mind. Our mind was extremely corrupted, extremely confused. But as a result of this practice, now the mind becomes clear, clean, has space. More and more you develop like this, then you can recognize these thoughts are the temporary visitors. You have your own clarity of mind. You have the undisturbed mind. You have the pure awareness. You have the capacity to be awakened to that awareness. So Buddha very clearly mentioned, Pabassara midam bhikkhave chittang tanchako agantukehi upakkilesehi upakkirittam. Monks, all these strange thoughts are very temporary. Because of them, the mind is diluted. The mind is polluted. And they are quite temporary, and you can erase them. You can simply take them away. And as a result, you may be able to experience that original nature of the mind, the sublime nature of the mind, the fundamental or the basic nature of the mind. So that is kind of an awareness, kind of a clarity, kind of a silence, unentangled mind. So if you are able to do it again and again, so this is where various insights are going to arise. So we will understand, so this is the path. So this is the path that I have to develop. Now you are developing kind of a confidence. You know the path now. Now how are you going to develop it? Now that is what Buddha mentioned in the third part. The way leading to the development of the establishment of mindfulness. Satipatthana Bhavana gaminincha patipada. Now you have to have a patipada, kind of a way of life to develop this. Now you know the path, but that is not enough. That is not yet the culmination, that is not yet the fulfillment, but you have to grow, you have to further develop it. Now Buddha is saying, now this is the path, this is developing. That is nothing but the Noble Eightfold Path. So Buddha is presenting the Noble Eightfold Path as a way of developing this whole insight. Now you know there's a kind of clarity of mind, there's a way of peace of mind, peaceful mind, an unentangled mind, unburdened mind, clear mind, a simple mind, unattached mind. How can I have it for a long time? How can I have an undefiled mind for a long time? So there should be a path. There should be a way to develop it. So Buddha is giving this Noble Eightfold Path as a strategy to develop it, as a strategy to enhance it. So there's a right view. So this is where you recognize, so this is the correct way to do. Now it is not what is available in the book, but you know experientially, so this is the way to practice. This is the way to have an unattached mind. So you have experienced that unattached mind. You have experienced that unassociated mind. You have experienced that freedom of mind. And that is the view, that is the goal. And for that you have a kind of a thought. How to have it? How to maximize it? How to enhance it? How to further improve it? So that is the Samma Sankappa. And in order to facilitate it, you have proper sila, you have proper morality. You are restraining your words, you are restraining your actions, you are restraining your livelihood. Because you are so sensitive right now, you are fairly mindful right now. And if you do something bad, it bothers you. It tells you it is not suitable for me. It really disturbs the mind. It really destroys the peace of mind. So why am I destroy that such a sublime, noble peace available in the mind? How can I protect it? How can I enhance it? So as a result, you are developing sila in order to develop samadhi, in order to develop wisdom. So sila appear like a foundation to help us to build this building, or you can say it kind of a mansion. Now if you are able to do that, then you have a right effort to continue it. There may be various obstacles coming on your way. How to overcome that? How to continue the practice even when the results are not so quick? How to continue it? And even when various obstacles are coming up, how to overcome them? How to again and again apply mindfulness and establish mindfulness and again apply wisdom and to clear the mind, to be free from entanglements, to be free from attachments. How can I continuously do this? So you need a lot of effort, you need a lot of energy to continue it. And the path is based on mindfulness, Samma Sati. So mindfulness is the one showing you the path. Mindfulness is the one giving or indicating you this is the state of mind right now. This is where mind is entangled. Right now it is clear. Right now it is not entangled. Right now it is bound. Right now it is unbound. Right now it is attached. Right now it is not attached. So likewise, that kind of an awareness, that kind of a mindfulness help us to understand ourselves, understand our feelings, understand our emotions, understand our own mind. And even it helps to understand about others. And the clarity of mind available, the calmness available, tranquility available, so that becomes the samadhi, Samma Samadhi. Because your mind is well concentrated, then only you have the clarity of mind. Otherwise, mind always shift to the past, always daydreaming, always going to fantasies, then it is not concentrated. But the concentration here, what is applying, is not even the kind of a extreme deep concentration, but rather the concentration which is sufficient to show you the path, to show you the entanglement, to show you the attachment, so that you can apply wisdom, you can apply sati, mindfulness, and again make it free. So all go hand in hand. The sila, the morality, help us to have a unbothered mind, or undisturbed mind, or free from any accusations, any guilty feelings. And again, you have the right view about the path, and you have the right mindfulness, effort, and the concentration to support the whole process. So this whole path has to be cultivated. It may not happen immediately. So again and again we have to apply this path. We have to practically live according to this path. We have to develop the path. So that is why Buddha says, so these three aspects of Satipatthana has to be known. You have to know how to establish mindfulness, and Buddha is giving various tools for that, various techniques, strategies for that. And once mindfulness is well established, don't stop there. You have to recognize how each and every process manifests, how each and every phenomena arise, how each and every phenomena disappear. And now you understand the impermanence. Now you understand how much all these phenomena are subjected to this kind of a transient nature. How can I expect lasting happiness from this kind of a situation? Then you understand suffering. Then you understand unsatisfactoriness. And the whole process is out of your control. Then you understand non-self. Now these appear like an insight, not like you are borrowing from a book, not like you are listening from a Dhamma sermon, but this become your own knowledge. This become your experiential knowledge. So this experiential knowledge have the capacity to release the mind, to free the mind, to renounce the attachments, to relinquish the attachments, and to have a free mind. And once you taste the freedom, then we have to maximize that freedom. We have to enhance that freedom. So what is the path to enhance that freedom? That is the Noble Eightfold Path. So in this way, Buddha very clearly mentioned this whole practice has three aspects or three steps. First of all, we need to establish mindfulness, and then we have to investigate the process underneath, and as a result various insights are possible. And once the insights are possible, once the insights are available, arisen, then we have to enhance them. We have to have them available to us at any time, to have a free mind, unentangled mind, a clear mind, a defilement-free mind. So this is kind of a goal we have to keep in our mind. So if we have this kind of a goal, then mindfulness helps us to start the process, and we are not stopping there. We take hand with the clear comprehension, sampajanya, and that will lead to development of the wisdom, various insights, and that helps us to avoid any attachment, to have a free mind, to have an unentangled mind. So that helps us to liberate the mind. So in this sutta, Buddha is clearly mentioned all these aspects in a nutshell, all these aspects very briefly. So with that concluding remarks, I like to wind up today's Dhamma sermon. And if you have any questions related to today's Dhamma sermon or with respect to your own practice, Now we can open the session.
Thank you, Swami Nasa. What an enlightening explanation, sermon. Frankly, brought some tears to my eyes. It's so nice, and I'm sure this is not only for the beginners, for the experienced meditators, practitioners, is very, very helpful. And there are some questions actually, how to get these talks. Friends, we are having this on YouTube. Ananda-Nalanda meditation retreat. If you type on YouTube, you will have all this immediately after this session. So yesterday's and today's, I request everyone to go back to them and listen to these talks of the two venerables at least a couple of times. It will really help us immensely. Bhante, I'm forwarding a question right now. I think this looks to be related to the mind that you mentioned about Padasaramidam Bhikkave. So the question is this, dear Venerable Bhante, is the original nature of the mind is permanent or unchanging? And also actually we have some questions about the brain and the mind. What's the difference between the brain and the mind, or the brain and the mind is the same? Things like that. So maybe you can touch upon that as well.
Yeah. So actually, the notion of permanence is something not applying here, because if we consider the consciousness is permanent, then we are getting to a kind of a wrong notion, kind of a michaditti, wrong view. Rather, we can say it is right now, it is not established. The awareness is not established. The consciousness is not established at any place. So, say for example, Pabassaramidam Bhikkave Chittang. So that statement actually Buddha says that there's a kind of awareness available. So it is being corrupted, it is being polluted by all these visiting thoughts or various visiting defilements. And once you are able to clear them out, then you can enjoy the clarity and you can enjoy the purity of the mind. So this awareness, this purity is a kind of a common thing. It is not a unique thing. It's common to you, it's common to me, common to others. Whoever able to remove that dirt, remove that pollutants, then we are able to touch, we are able to experience that clarity. So this clarity, Buddha never say it's kind of a permanent thing or kind of a soul. So that is a kind of a different explanation coming from various other faiths. But according to the Buddha's teaching, this is where the consciousness become unestablished. So Buddha is giving a very beautiful simile. Probably you can think according to that line. So Buddha is asking, there's a kind of a house with several windows, and say it has only 4 walls and 4 windows. And during the morning time, there are all four walls are actually facing different directions. One wall facing east direction, one wall facing west direction, another wall facing north direction, and the other wall direction the south. So likewise, these 4 walls are directed to different directions. And Buddha is asking a question, when there is sunrise coming from the eastern wall, from that eastern window, where does it going to establish? Then the monks say, Bhante, it may establish on the western wall. And then Buddha asks, how about if there is no wall on the west? Then monks say, the rays go and hit the floor. It may established on the ground. And then Buddha asks, how about if there is no ground? Then the monks answer, it may go and establish in water. Then Buddha asks, if there is no water, where does it going to go and establish? Then Buddha asks, where does it going to establish? Then monk says, nowhere, no place to establish. So similarly, when our mind establish, so it has a lot of things. It has physical things, it has feelings, it has thoughts, it has defilements. So that is where the consciousness is established. But there's a possibility of unestablished consciousness. There's a possibility of pure awareness. It is unestablished. So there you can't find a person. There you can't find a soul. There you can't find a thing. This kind of awareness is possible. That is according to the Buddha's teaching. And therefore, asking what is permanent, is it permanent? I feel it is not applicable here because it is not conditioned. It is not something made out of causes. So all the conditioned phenomena we can say permanent or impermanent. So here we are in a different domain. So there Buddha says it is not coming and going. There you can say it is permanent, but this kind of a relevant question to the typical cause and effect relationship, whether it is permanent or impermanent. But here it is kind of a different domain. We can go to the next section.
Another question we received. I like to listen to Dhamma sermons very much from YouTube. I can easily find a new one each day. I have heard meditation is more important to develop wisdom. How should I balance listening to Dhamma sermons and meditation time-wise?
Yeah, actually, sometimes listening actually helps to understand the depth of the Dhamma, and that actually has to convince you that you have to own the Dhamma. Not that simply you listen and keep it on the surface, but rather you have to practice according to the Dhamma. That is where the practice is more important. And more, then the listening helps us to convince that this is a kind of something practical. This is talking about developing certain qualities in ourselves. This is talking about reducing certain bad things or bad habits, bad qualities in ourselves. So that is where the practice comes to the front. So even if you are listening, if you are not practicing, so if you are not developing your skills, necessary qualities, then it is very little than we can gain from the Buddha's teaching. We are simply have some book knowledge, but never have the experiential knowledge. So Buddha is giving kind of a criterion of 3 types of knowledge. First knowledge, as you mentioned, is the book knowledge, Sutame Jnana. Nowadays you can either listen, you can read, and this all related to the Sutame Jnana. The listening, the knowledge gained by the listening. And then the Chintame Jnana, the contemplative knowledge. You can sort of think about it, you can rationally think about it and have kind of a rational answer, have a kind of a rational view. So that is called the Chintame Jnana. But the third one is the most important, that is called the Bhavaname Jnana, meditative knowledge. So there you have to have your own knowledge. It is not something borrowed from someone. It is not something copied, but it is your own knowledge. So this is what helping us the most. And this is what we have to develop as our own practice. And this is a kind of a practical knowledge. This kind of an experiential knowledge. And even if you have lot of degrees, lot of information, lot of heard knowledge, it may not lead to the experiential knowledge unless you practice. So therefore, I encourage you to get on to the practice, and then only you can really experience the Buddha's teaching.
Thank you, Swaminathan. The question of mindfulness and concentration coming a couple of times. So I'm going to forward a question here. I'm sorry. Dear Bhante, what is the difference between mindfulness and concentration? Bhante Dhammajiva explained the consciousness and mindfulness. I think what he is asking is the difference here, Swaminathan.
Yeah.
And also there's another related question here, Samma Sati and Samma Samadhi. Again, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Maybe you can couple all these things together.
Yes. Actually, concentration we can say as a result of the developed mindfulness, because you can't immediately have concentration unless you develop mindfulness. So mindfulness is the entry, kind of the doorway to develop concentration. And actually Buddha explains it in different ways, as say for example as 5 faculties. You have saddha, the faith, you have effort, the virya, and you have mindfulness, the sati, and you have concentration, the samadhi, and you have to have the wisdom, the panya. So if you are developing, actually we have to start maybe with mindfulness, and as a result, when you have some continuous mindfulness, there's a possibility of keeping our mind long time on a particular selected subject or in a particular selected object. Say for example, you are keeping your attention again and again on breath. At the beginning it is too difficult because our mind distracts. Our mind go to the past, go to the future, go to here and there, going to this and that. So it is not concentrated. But again and again you are effortfully bringing your attention and keeping attention there on the breath. Now you can be mindful about 10 consecutive breaths. Say 20 consecutive breaths. Now you can understand kind of a energy being built up, kind of a skill being built up to maintain your attention for a particular period of time, for a longer period of time. Previously it is impossible because mind jumps like a monkey. But now mind stays on a particular object for a long period of time. There we can say one type of samadhi, one kind of concentration. So this is actually where we have concentration, where we have to be precise, the samatha concentration. But when you have the skill to keep your attention precisely on the selected object, even if the object change, still you can maintain the concentration. So that is we sometimes call that kanika samadhi or momentary concentration. The object constantly change, but your mind is well concentrated on this varying object, changing object. Say for example, while in walking meditation, first you are keeping your attention on the left foot. Next you are keeping your attention on right foot. Next again you are keeping your attention on left foot. So likewise, again and again, you can selectively keep your attention on where it is necessary. Then again and again, your mind is concentrated momentarily on that selected object. So there we can say it is a kind of a momentary concentration. So therefore, there are 2 aspects to concentration, but both actually requires mindfulness as a prerequisite. We can go to the next section.
So the next question I have here is, Dear Bhante, is it correct to establish right view and right thoughts before sila, open parenthesis, right speech, right action and right livelihood, close a question mark, please clarify.
Actually, this question comes only when we think linearly, but this actually can happen in different ways. Actually, Buddha explains in different manner. In certain suttas, Buddha explain sila, samadhi, panya. Say you establish morality and use that morality to develop concentration, and again use that concentration to develop wisdom. So this is one typical approach, sila, samadhi, panya. But there also, it is not that you fully develop sila and then go to concentration, and then you fully develop concentration and then only you go to wisdom. Rather, you develop some amount of morality, and then you start to develop concentration, and then you start to develop wisdom, and as a result, the developed concentration helps to develop further wisdom, and some amount of wisdom again helps to develop morality. So they have some interrelationships. This appear like a matrix, not like a linear relationship. So one helps to the other. So they have some interrelationships. So the developed concentration helps to develop further improve morality, further improve wisdom, and develop wisdom helps to further improve morality, further improve concentration. So likewise, they have some interrelationships. And there are certain other suttas where Buddha starts with mindfulness and then combine with clear comprehension, and then we typically coin it as sati sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension, and that leads to develop morality. That leads to develop concentration. So likewise, say for example, Sati Sampajanya Sutta appear in Anguttara Nikaya. There Buddha starts with the Sati Sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension. So it has the capacity to develop morality. So therefore, you can start with where you are and whatever is applicable, and starting with having good sila is a plus point. But if you start without good sila but directly from the mindfulness, as you develop mindfulness, you automatically has to develop sila. You automatically purify your morality. So this is a kind of a joint event actually happens. If you are developing proper mindfulness, it will helps to develop morality as well. You can't be mindful while you are doing something wrong. You can only do something wrong for a limited time, for a short period, if you are mindful. The mindfulness helps you to recognize the outcome of it, the consequences of that wrong activity. Then you start to give it up. You leave it aside, and you become a kind of a moral person. And next section is related to the Samma Sati and Samma Samadhi. So this is where the mindfulness concentration is well geared or well enhanced, and you can't come immediately to this level. Rather, we have to start with bare attention. Sometimes we call as Sati Matra, kind of a very simple establishment of mindfulness, and later it grows and it can bring some amount of concentration, and that concentration also can be improved, and as a result we can get on to the path factors where Samma Sati and Samma Samadhi is available. We can get into the next question.
Here's a question. Dear Bhante, when breathing meditation, watching your breath and seeing the details of the breath, you sometimes come to a nothingness or a stillness. How do you explain that state of mind?
Actually we should not confuse ourselves immediately that we are coming to nothingness or immediately we are coming to emptiness, because there's a possibility of simply the breath disappear or breath fades away only for a short while, and our mindfulness is not sharpened enough to recognize it. So if your mindfulness is fairly sharpened or further improved, then again breath appear. So this is where the object become refined, become subtle. So our mindfulness is not capable enough to recognize it. So this we can't immediately say as kind of an emptiness. So emptiness is a skill or kind of an insight happens in Vipassana, where your mind has let go of the object after seeing the kind of the consequences, after seeing the drawbacks. Say for example, again and again, if you see some kind of a process is very transient, very impermanent, and it is subject to change and quite unsatisfactory and beyond your control, then that wisdom, that insight helps to leave aside that process altogether and not to attach with anything in the world. That is where Buddha mentioned very clearly in Satipatthana Sutta, Anissitocha viharati, nachakinchi loke upaditi, where that such mind now recognize its own freedom, recognize its own unassociated kind of a state, kind of an independent state, not associating or not attaching, not grasping anything in the world. So that is where leading us to the proper emptiness. So therefore, simple disappearing of kind of any object, not immediately we can define or we can say that we plunge into emptiness, but rather it's a kind of a short disappearance or kind of a temporary fading away of that object. But we have to develop fair amount of insight to properly experience the real emptiness. Yeah.
The next question, kind of a change of pace. This question, Hamadurane, the current discussion is really technical and addressing the direct Buddha's teaching. As young and middle-aged laymen, how it helps our day-to-day and future well-being. The environment is really competitive and challenging. How are we achieve things that we supposed to achieve while adhering to all these teachings? Should we slow down and follow a middle path?
Yeah. So actually, say for example, as young people, as youth, we all, I mean, I am also fairly old now. So anyway, so we have all sort of ambitions and say a lot of motivation, many things are there. But on the other hand, if our mind is fairly deluded, if we are living in a dream, if we are living in a fantasy, then it is not that worth. So mindfulness practice does not ask us to give up everything and to become a monk. Rather, you can be mindful while you engage in your job. You can be mindful while you are a parent. You can be mindful while you are a student. So that is the beauty. So it is true that you have various ambitions and various social norms, etc. But at the same time, if you develop this present moment awareness, so that actually helps you to be awakened to the present moment, to have a clear understanding of what is going on, and have a kind of a clarity of mind, then only you are able to get the correct decision. Otherwise, always our decisions are biased. We are taking sort of we take kind of a we make kind of a choice based on our own judgments, based on our own sort of attachments. But if we develop fair amount of mindfulness, it helps us to understand all these judgments, all these preoccupied ideas, all fixed views that we have. and kind of reactions that we do, and all the various types of defilements arising in the mind. So that actually gives us a better position or better place to properly live our life. So the clarity of mind is not therefore only limited to spiritual goal, but the clarity of mind, the awareness, living in the present moment, and have the ability to understand ourselves and coming back to ourselves and have a good concentrated mind actually helps us to have a proper day-to-day life. Suppose you are a student. If you have a kind of a well-concentrated mind, it is good for your studies. If you are a, say, sportsman, if you can have your clarity of mind, if you have your concentrated mind, then you can do your sport properly. But these are actually kind of mundane benefits, but Buddha's teaching actually takes us to some very sublime benefits, some sublime goals. But anyway, all the benefits are still valid to our mundane life as well.
Thank you, Ambrone. That was the very illuminating answers and sermon and meditation. And however, I think it's 11 o'clock p.m. in Sri Lanka now, and we also have some more questions. And one of the things, but we have to continue with the meditation next. So I wanted to ask a question that people who would have more questions, is there a way they can contact you and Dhammaji Mahaprabhu in email or some other way, or there's a how do they ask questions?
Yeah, actually there are, if you are writing in English and if you want the answer in English, there are a few sessions that we conduct remotely using Zoom, like right now we are conducting. And on every Sunday we have, but unfortunately it is not suitable for you living in US and Canada, because in in Sri Lanka time, we have from 1:30 to 3:30 we have a session through the Zoom called Mindfulness for Young Adults session, and that is in English. And again on every Sunday starting from 7 a.m. we have a session from Sinhala with a sermon and then a Q&A session that is also broadcast via Zoom. And those are one possibilities. And again there is a email address kamatahan@nissaranavanaya@gmail.com. I'll actually can't exactly remember the exact email address. I can let you know to the organizers, and there you can post your question, and some of us, maybe Bhante Dhammajiva or myself or Venerable some another Venerable might answer your question. So, and on the other hand, probably into this session you can collect all these other questions and send an email. So, and then maybe we together can write the answers and send you back, and you can forward to the listeners. So many possibilities are there. So one option is to use our Zoom sessions, and they are displayed in our website. You can go to Nissarana Vanaya website, www.nissarana.lk website. There you have the link to the weekly Zoom sessions. You can join with them, or you can post your questions even through the Nissarana Vanaya website. So you can go to the Nissarana website and you can post a question, or else you can email your question to the organizers into this present Ananda-Nalanda session, and then they will forward them to us.
Thank you. So what we will do is that after this is over, we take some breath on organizing this. We will post this into our website, that is wcusa.org, and from there you will be able to get the links and how to access. For example, we have the day one, the full recording in YouTube. You can watch. Yesterday actually I listened to those things, and also after we finish today, that will be available in YouTube. That is YouTube. Our account is WC, but we will put all those links in our website, and so you can also contact us with the email that you received for your confirmation. The General Secretary's email, wcusa.org, and so we can provide the information there. And so those are the main things I can think at this moment. And these questions, we will send a copy those questions to the Mr. Vanaya Chandaratana, and so we'll see how we can distribute it, or whether we will post it, or we have to think through how to give you back the answers. And so it's time to start the next the practice session on meditation, and so maybe we can. So we have took some time for the questioning here. So it's 10:37 here. So maybe 15 minutes of the practice meditation. I would appreciate if Bante could start off like yesterday.
Yeah, I will start up and then leave, and so therefore I like to take this moment to thank you all, because in between the session I will leave the meeting. So thank you very much for participation, and again the wonderful session that we are able to conduct using Ananda-Nalanda All Boys Association in West Coast, California. And this is actually a good opportunity for all of us to share our knowledge and share our experiences and encourage yourself. And therefore, Buddha's teaching is so valid, so important, and so rare. So having a good human birth, so we have to utilize this human birth to the best of our ability. And therefore, I encourage all of you to not to stop at this level, but rather to have a kind of a usual practice, and then only we can get the maximum benefit. So with that words, let's get into the practice. Again, you can sit in a comfortable position. Calm down yourself. Allow various thoughts to fade away. Don't encourage any thoughts right now. And come back to your posture. We are right now sitting in a comfortable posture. We can gently close our eyes. We are breathing naturally. Our lips are touching each other. Jaws are not tightly coupled. There is no any tension in the face. The whole head feeling relaxed. And it is kept straight. Neck also straight, no tightness. And shoulders are in a very relaxed position. We are not holding them effortfully. And our hands are resting. And the body is erect, straight. And probably we can feel some pressure, heaviness, some weight at our buttocks. Check whether you can feel them. You can draw your attention to various places and check whether you can feel these. And our legs are bent, calf muscles are relaxed, and foot touching the ground. See whether you can feel them. And in the mind there may be various thoughts, but don't encourage them. Don't give any value, any importance to them. Now come back to yourself. Be friendly with yourself. Appreciate this direct experience. You are not in a dream. You are fully aware of the present moment. Doesn't matter it is with a painful feeling or little noise or whatever it is, but you are not deluded at the moment. You are not in an imagination, but rather with some direct experience. So when you are able to be aware of this posture, try to little refine this mindfulness. What are the various processes that you can recognize? Are you able to recognize breathing process? Are you able to recognize rising and falling of the abdomen? Are you able to recognize the heartbeat? Or how about various touching points? Many things are possible. Just give it a try. If your mind distracts, don't worry. When you know that your mind has distracted, gently bring it back to your body. You can have a long breath and slowly exhale. Come back to yourself. Again, you can have a long breath, long inhale, hold it for a while and slowly exhale. Enjoy this experience. It is so direct, so simple. We are not complicating the situation. We can acknowledge the whole experience. There are various feelings available in the body. Certain feelings appear like pleasurable. Probably there may be little painful feelings. Mostly there are neutral feelings. Are you able to recognize various feelings? If you feel comfortable, that also is a feeling. If there are itching sensations, that is a painful feeling. So we have our own interpretations, but anyway, if you are able to recognize various feelings, you can use them to establish mindfulness. We are not thinking about various feelings, rather we are paying attention to various feelings. We are silently observing them. When your mindfulness refines, you may be able to clearly recognize them, how they appear, what are the causes, and how they disappear. How long are they staying? Is it a single feeling or is a group of feelings? So when our mindfulness and clear comprehension improves, so all these various subtle details are available to us. So each and every feeling appear and then disappear. We can simply watch them without bothering about them, like an outsider.